All right, so we know that Serape blankets have lots of patterns in them and lots of color. So the first thing that we're going to do is create our patterned background with a Sharpie. Your patterns should be going in straight lines from top to bottom this way on the paper. If it's easier for you to draw, you can go across like this, but we are going on the short side. So maybe the first type of pattern I think of is line, dot, line, dot. So I would continue that all the way down. And then maybe next I could think of a zigzag pattern or a zigzag line. And maybe to make it more interesting, I'll add some little curved lines in there. Okay, so you go ahead and continue filling up your paper until you have lines going from one end all the way to the next. You might notice that some of my lines I repeated, but I just changed them a little bit, and that's totally fine because sometimes it's honestly hard to think of this many different lines. So if you see one that you like, just repeat it and maybe just change a little thing about it. Okay, so once you are finished with your Sharpie, go ahead and write your name on the back, and then we are ready for the color part. So for this step, we are using our favorite markers, Mr. Sketch. We're using a Ziploc bag, and then I am going to be using the water bottle for this part for you. Your paper is about the same size as your plastic bag, but if you notice, this zipper part actually makes it a tiny bit shorter. So if you can see, this part of my paper is not gonna be covered. So what you're gonna do when we do the stamping part, you're just gonna have to color one more stripe and stamp just a little bit on the end. And I'll show you that in a second. So we've done something similar like this before. You are basically going to be coloring stripes of color in any order across your bag. And what I mean by that is you're just putting some color on your bag. I'm gonna test the width and make sure it goes all the way to the sides. Might be helpful to go ahead and keep your paper under the bag while you do this. So I don't necessarily need to go all the way across. I can stop where my paper stops. Okay, and you just continue going down. You can make a pattern if you want, or you can just color stripes of color. It's up to you. You do want to make sure that you have as much of your bag covered as you can. So since the bag is really slippery and the marker has water in it, it doesn't really stick super well, but I don't want to be coloring like this. Like, that's not going to be enough ink. You want to make sure you have as much of that bag covered as you can. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. If you can tell, this zipper kind of cuts me off and it prevents me from being able to color enough for the rest of my paper. So when I spray your water and you stamp it, you're just gonna stamp it 2 times and that's okay. All right, so next you should remove your paper because we wanna keep this dry. Just set it somewhere safe on your table. I will come to your table and give your Ziploc bag a couple sprays of water. Okay, and what that does is just kind of activates the ink and makes it more like watercolor. Next, you take your paper and flip it on top of your Ziploc bag. So do not pick this up, leave the Ziploc on your table. The paper gets flipped upside down. Try to line it up with the edge so it's not too crooked. And then just gently massage the back of your paper. And you can tell it's working when you can start to see some of the marker showing through the back. Now is the fun part. So go ahead and take a corner and start to peel your paper up. And you should be left with a gorgeous tie-dye type print, okay? So this is what I was talking about. This little guy on the end is left out. So I'm gonna set my paper back in the safe spot, and I'm just gonna color one stripe on my bag. Okay, so once again, we'll spray with the water. And last time, so remember, I'm not moving the bag, I'm just moving the paper. Flip it upside down, make sure it's on the right end. And give it one more little massage. And there we go.